everyone. Thank you for bearing with us. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the owner and co-founder of Just Your Mate, coaching and consulting platform for women entrepreneurs, freelancers, creatives, and the woman next to me, virtually speaking, Kayte Malik, right? She is the founder of Dress Code Tech, and I'd love for you to first get everyone up to speed on what is your company, what do you do, and just all the coolness that is your brand of combining fashion and technology.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Kayte Malik, and Natasha, thank you for having me today. I'm excited to chat with you. And Natasha and I met at a fashion event in New York, which was fun. It was a women empowerment, very exciting, through an organization called Remodista, and it was a lot of fun. So with me and my company, the company that we started about 2 years ago now, is called Dress Code, and at Dress Code, it's dresscodetech.com. At Dress Code Tech, what we do is we believe that there's beauty and innovation in technology, and we merge fashion and tech to educate women and girls about computer science, coding, and STEM. And we do that through tech-enabled bracelets. So we actually have bracelets that are cuffs right now that have empowering messages on them in binary code. And they say things like, I am bold and I am brave and I am smart. And you take that code to our website, type it in, and it unlocks lessons on how to code. So for each bracelet, you get 30 to 50 minutes of a coding lesson. And by the end of the 3 lessons, we have 3 lessons right now in CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. You should have pretty good knowledge on how front-end web development works and how to use different code languages to manipulate and build websites for yourself. So it's been very exciting. A lot of learning. I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of that stuff, but that's really kind of the basic gist of it. Also, kind of one of the reasons why one of our solutions to this problem of not having enough women in tech is leveraging fashion and beauty and using that as kind of the gateway into tech and making it less boy-like, or because what woman or what girl doesn't like fashion? So that's kind of the basis of our company.
Awesome. So how did you come up with this great idea?
So this idea, so I had spent many years in corporate technology roles, and I also started off as a computer science major in college, but very quickly fell behind. I was one of 2 girls in the program, and this was 15 years ago now. So I just didn't feel like I had the proper support or community to be able to be successful. So I ended up changing majors and went into business information systems, which is more kind of the business side of tech. And spent about 12 years in technology, like I said, in corporate tech jobs or strategy roles, and was usually one of 2 girls in the room or women in the room. And I always knew the benefit of tech jobs and kind of the flexibility and even the salaries are much different than some traditional roles that women are exposed to, and the opportunity is there to learn and grow if you're very inquisitive and you like to solve problems. Tech in many forms, because people just kind of sometimes think of tech and think of coding or engineering or something like that, but there's so many facets of corporate technology, or just you know, changing how we solve things through technology, that I just really kind of saw the need of, there is a need for more women and girls to be in technology. And so that's kind of the basis and the passion behind it, is just kind of building the community that I lacked in college, and then exposing more women and girls to STEM, or science, engineering, math, and tech. And so that's kind of the basis for kind of where the idea came from. But at the end of the day, it started as a class project in business school. So I said that I spent many years in corporate technology. I also spent some time in retail doing e-commerce and e-commerce strategy and building, doing product or management roles to support a very large retailer's e-commerce site that I got a ton of great learning, had a ton of great experience there. And I think I was always saying, if I come up with the perfect product, I'll be able to start a website and kind of run an e-commerce company, because I have this really great experience, both from a technology side, building software and all of that, but also kind of the retail. So was in a class, I was getting my MBA at Notre Dame, and it was a class project. And the idea kind of just came to me, kind of a perfect convergence of all of this business knowledge that I've built up, and then my passion for technology, innovation, and bridging that with fashion. So fashion tech, which is a very kind of cool buzzword right now. And there's a lot of fun things going on in the space, but that's kind of where the idea came from. And then I met my co-founder in business school, and we then continued to kind of use the rest of school as the test bed for what we were trying to do. So we did some de-risking there, we did some feasibility studies, and at the end of it, we had ultimately written our first business plan. Now that business plan today looks completely different than what it did in mid-2016, but it was the good kind of groundwork and foundation that we needed to put in place to be able to build this company up.
Absolutely. Okay. And I'd love for you to share, what are some of the barriers for why girls have like a harder entrance into the STEM field, whether it's from the educational side or even from just career side? And then also, why do we need women in tech and STEM? I think that it should be obvious to people like you and me, but it might not be obvious to everyone. So like, what are preventing girls, and then how, like, why do we need them in the space?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that are kind of preventing them, but also a number of things we can do to get them excited, and whether it's a young girl or a woman that could be changing careers, or also just the career landscape is changing and more tech is coming into traditional roles within like HR and marketing and stuff like that. So I think if you look at kind of the psychological effect, kind of once a girl hits about 8th grade, she's already self-selected herself out of these harder kind of curriculums in school, whether it be math or science or engineering or whatever. So you have to kind of get them young, or they're like younger girls, I'd say 4 to like 7 or 8 are, you know, their confidence are so high and they're ready to do anything and conquer the world. But as girls start to mature, they start to kind of self-doubt, and it's very different than kind of what a boy does. And so just like human nature, that kind of happens. So I think it's just letting girls know that it's okay and that there are great opportunities that come from that. And then, you know, there's a lot of other things that play into it. What they say is something like girls that do sports have a more likelihood to take leadership positions or do something that's harder or something that is much more team oriented, because they're kind of they're being pushed outside of their comfort zone to like learn and leverage new things. So if you think about the barriers within kind of as you get to like college and then into the corporate space, it's about that community that I talked about. So 15 years ago, there was 2 or 3 girls in a computer science program. Today, you know, there's so much effort into recruiting talent into these schools and then building communities around them so that they feel like they're comfortable and they can thrive. And so there's that. And then if you kind of look at the corporate landscape, there's just not enough women that say started their careers 20 years ago that are now in these leadership positions to be able to kind of, like, the women that are there, they're doing it, right? There's so many tech initiatives, but just at the pure kind of concept of numbers, you know, like, it's a numbers game. So there's not enough women. So that's why there's all these pipeline projects to kind of bring people up into it. So in looking at like, what are some of the other barriers or why women leave or decide to do other things? So there's obviously things like when people go to start a family and they want to take some time off, and then it's very hard to come in at the level that they left at. Sometimes, like, again, there's more conscious effort in corporations to be able to kind of bridge that kind of going back to work, and there's programs in place. But for a long time, that when a woman kind of exited to take 3 to 5 years off to have a family, it was much harder for her to kind of go back in than someone that kind of just stayed and kind of didn't take that time. Now, you could look at it as a good and a bad. Like, there's experiences that you gain from being able to step away from the business for a while and then come back in. So there's that. There's other things like the way that men and women mentor each other and kind of pull people up through the ranks is very different, and there's lots of studies around that. I think it's improving, but that's another thing, is just as women kind of grow in their careers, whether it be technology or anything else, it's very important on your network, your mentors, who you know. And if you're not building that kind of at the lower part of your career, it's very hard to kind of, you know, maneuver, and then that's where people get stuck sometimes. So that, I think, answers the first part of your question. And then the second part was
it was what was I going to say? So it was I know you shared a lot of good content there. So first it was barriers, and then the need. So like, why do we want women in STEM?
So let me tell you this story. So I don't know if it was, I think it was Microsoft, I don't know, 2 years ago or so. So let's like look at AI for an example. So artificial intelligence and data is becoming huge, and there's machine learning, and there's deep learning, and there's general AI, and all of this stuff. And what does it mean? It means a lot, and it's kind of crazy. But AI and machine learning learns from the people in the community and the environment around it. So if your community and your environment is excited and happy and not biased towards things and open-minded, you know, you create this bot, or you create this machine learning application that is open-minded and is learning from the people around it, or learning from the commands that are given to it. So, example is, I think it was Microsoft did, so a couple years ago, it's got to be 2 years now, they introduced a bot to Twitter. It was supposed to mimic like a teenage girl, and her name was Tay, and it standed for something like within the realm of AI. If you go and Google Microsoft Tay, have you heard this story before? Have you heard Tay? Okay, so Tay, I think it was like, I don't know, maybe the summer of 2016. So go back to the summer of 2016 and just kind of look at the climate in the US at that time, right? And so, so Tay was launched as a bot on Twitter, and she was meant to be like the first social robot that was gonna like build community, and it was like this big PR thing through, I'm pretty sure it was Microsoft, and if it was somebody else, I'm sorry for throwing you under the bus. So within 24, so Tay started by saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here, and humans are awesome, and, you know, let's learn together. And within 24 hours, she became a bigoted, cursing, not so nice teenager girl that was doing things and saying things to people that were very inappropriate. So within 24 hours, this bot learned, based on, and this was kind of the Twitter community kind of like pushing back on kind of this PR stunt that a huge global organization was trying to, and so within 24 hours, this AI driven thing that could potentially be a test bed for so many other things became very, very, very bad. And so if you look, so many women in kind of that development workforce that is developing things like that. So it's so important to kind of have a female voice in how technology is created and how things are built, because it needs to be representative of kind of the whole human race, right? So I hope that's coming across. But when you think of like what I hear, and I get a chance to talk with a lot of HR executives and people that are recruiting, or like even executives that lead big technology teams. And the feedback I get from them is, one, we can't find enough women, and women are better at kind of looking at the whole picture, and they're better at finding problems, and they're better listeners. And so their solutions just tend to be better, and they build teams, and they're more collaborative, where, and this is just kind of, I guess, human nature too, is where a guy or an all guys team is just going to barrel down a path and get something done, and they're less likely to raise issues, or less likely to say, oh my gosh, there's a blocker here, and what can we do to mitigate? Where a woman's going to raise her hand and say, hey, I see this is due in 2 weeks, but we're doing this, this, and this, and we think that this would need kind of the delivery effort of what we're trying to create. So
Gotcha.
that is kind of why we need women.
Yeah, no, and I love that you thoroughly broke that out for people, because I think that when we hear things, and so much of life is like, we just put things in like sound bites or hashtags, and it's like people have to understand psychologically, why are we saying what we're saying? So why do we need women in tech and STEM specifically? Because we are all experiencing and consuming technology. Wouldn't it make sense to have technology made for you, by you? Like, so I think that people need to understand that. And so, and I love that. And so on your team, are you an all women or mostly women run organization?
So great question. So I've always been a big proponent of like lots of thought. So actually my co-founder is a man. We met in business school, and he came into the fold because as soon as I told him what we were trying to do, at the time he had a 9-year-old daughter, and it clicked because 2 days prior he saw his daughter say was struggling with math and was like, I'm not doing this. And this guy has an aerospace engineering degree and has risen to kind of the top pinnacle of like flying in like the world. So he's very much into technology, but also understands that women need to be a part of it. So he and I have built this company together. But I also think that is kind of like the teachings of where I went to business school and kind of solving a problem that's bigger than yourself, and kind of looking at like how do you do things ethically and holistically. And so we are a good team together. But then, we have a pretty strong intern program, and that usually typically is girls in college, and they putting a plug out there too. We have a lot of girls come to us and say, we love what you're doing, how can I help? And so we've been able to kind of leverage some really great top talent from some of the best schools in the country, and those tend to be girls. So so there's that. When it comes to developing our technology, though, that's the hard part. So on the design side, we have, there's a lot of women, but when it comes to coders and stuff like that, it's hard to find. As we build the company and as we build kind of the culture around it and like benefits and stuff like that, we're always cognizant of like, equal pay and, time off situations, what for health reasons or whatever, support the family. And so as we're still maybe kind of bidding and still kind of looking at that, but kind of looking at like, how do there's a lot of problems that people are trying to solve from a corporate perspective right now. And how do we make sure that we're doing things that are logical and that are building a culture that we want to thrive in? So we do have like a set of values that we live by, and I can't put them now because I think there's 11 of them. But we really, well, and we took that lead from Amazon. If you go to Amazon's website, they have a full list of values that they live by, and if something doesn't fit into that, they don't do it, right? And a lot of it is actually driven by like data and stuff like that, but it also is somewhat human centric. So we spend a lot of time with that. So I think, as we grow, we want to be a place where women in technology want to come to work and want to kind of change the landscape of things. And we want to be that place where, today it's bracelets, but like I said, the landscape for fashion technology, retail technology is changing so rapidly. So there's so much more we can do. But it's really just, that's kind of how we build our team. Is that what you were kind of looking for in an answer?
Yeah, just to understand. I mean, I think also, having an opportunity like you to share your story and your business, I think people, are curious. They're curious to kind of get behind the curtain, behind brands. And so, yeah, I would just love for you to share a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey, like, going from being, in business and then saying, okay, I want my own thing. How has that journey been? What have been some of the biggest lessons and also some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, so I think some people are born with an entrepreneurial bug. I think from the time I was little, I was like making scrunchies to sell to people, and like had a thriving babysitting business in high school where I didn't have to work a job and was making really decent money. So I think for my whole entire life, I've always been trying to like solve problems and figure out how to make money doing it, right? So, which is kind of starting a bit like, you can have a great idea, but if you can't monetize it or you can't find a way to like scale it, it's not, you know, it's not a business. It's just kind of a fun thing to do,
Freelance.
right? So, yeah. So I think just for me, it's always been a part of me. I have some entrepreneurial people in my family that have built very strong businesses, or even like, say, entrepreneurship within a large organization that have a very successful career, say in sales or something like that. So, so I think just it's like the drive that I have, and just kind of, I like to just tinker with things. So I think throughout the course of like my corporate career, I was always doing something on the side. I wouldn't call it a side hustle, but just trying to kind of learn and grow. And I think where I had all these ideas, and I would kind of put these ideas out there, and then I'd see other people go and make a huge business out of it. And it was little things that I would be afraid about, like, what if someone laughs at it, or what if there's a legal issue? And so so I would see all these things, and I would take something so far and then just not know what to do and not know how to ask for help. And that's where I kind of decided that business school was probably going to be the right thing for me, to be able to kind of gain that confidence and round out some of the skills that I hadn't gained in my corporate career. And then also build a network that was going to help me go to the next level. Because, you know, business school is great. It's a lot of fun for a lot of people, but a lot of it is about also kind of gaining a broader network and people that can help. So I think like that's kind of like not the very tactical view of like what I'm doing with Dress Code today, but just like my journey into how I got to this place. And granted, like, Dress Code is fun. It's a great concept, and we're a growing company and we love what we're doing, but it's hard. Like, to be an entrepreneur, you always have to be learning. You always have to be informed. You always have to be thinking 10 steps ahead. You can't only focus in your industry. You have to look at a broader scale of things, because something that's happening over in the auto industry, which is a little retail, could affect what's going on in the retail industry. Or, you know, if a bank is going to collapse or something's going to go haywire, like, you should be able to plan and understand that. So I think, like, when I started on this 2 years ago, I had no clue about manufacturing. I know a little bit about manufacturing now, but, you know, we have to have our bracelets manufactured. So, you know, I had to go and get educated on that and go to plants and warehouses and see how all of this stuff was made. And so, so there's stuff like that. And then also, when you think, like, it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. Like, it's money, it's time. If you're not independently healthy or have that network that's able to kind of give you funds to go start what you're trying to do, like, it's a lot of kind of hard times trying to figure out how you're going to feed yourself and take care of your team and all of that stuff. So it's to find creative ways to be able to kind of fund your business too. And if you look at just, again, hot topic, buzzword in entrepreneurship right now, and always, is fundraising and venture capital. And, you know, not everybody has that network, and not everybody is ready for venture capital when they're like, you need to go get venture funding. And, you know, so there's a lot of learnings around that. But if you're not ready for VC, or you haven't hit the certain milestones that some of these VC funds are looking for, or even angel investors, you have to be really creative to try and figure out how to get sales. Because at the end of it goes back to, if you have an idea that doesn't make money, no one's going to invest, right? Like, I hate when people are like, well, we'll figure out how to monetize it. Like, the days of monetizing Facebook and Snapchat and all, like, there can only be so many ad tech companies, right? And so you have to be very clear on what your business model is and be able to prove it out. So I think that's also kind of something that's hard or something to kind of highlight in my journey is like, how do you get really creative in, you know, building a brand when you, so there's things like pitch competitions, or I did a fellowship for a year to be able to go work on it and get a little bit of fun, like a little bit of money to live. And there was some work that that came out of it that I had to kind of support that work. But I was able to kind of take a year off from, you know, not having to worry about, do I have or something, like another level to be able to be a next level.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's so much. I mean, I think entrepreneurship is not easy, but you know what in life is, right? Working, you know, I love hearing the like, well, you could just get a job at job security. There's nothing secure about working for someone else or working for yourself, right? Like, I think that ultimately, you know, it's just about how much risk. One is a little bit more risky than the other, but it's about what do you want, right? And I think that, you know, so much I wish of education was formulated more around identifying who you are in this world, as opposed to like what random facts you can memorize because you don't use them. And really it's other skill sets that we need to learn, like coding, like learning signing, like learning Mandarin, like, you know, learning more about yourself that will really propel you in your life. So I hope that there's innovation within education, because I think that as we continue to go, and I could see entrepreneurship continuing to have a heavy hold in a public conversation in our society. How are we preparing our kids for this, right? Because algebra is not going to cut it. It might cut it if you want to be an engineer, if you know, but for people who actually want to be an artist and want to monetize, what do they need to know between the ages of 8 and 18? And how can technology be a part of the conversation so that they, you know, they're more prepared for life?
So I think I think there's always going to be a place for math, right? And finance. If you look at you know, designer, like I wish I would have studied art and went the artist path, because there's so many ways to make money today. If you look at like front-end designers and all of the stuff that just didn't exist when I was a child, even that didn't exist when I graduated college 15 years ago. So I think that if I could go through my education again, what I would do is do as much as I could to learn finance. I think if you can understand if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to be successful, you need to understand your numbers. So you can be a creative type and go, you know, do a dual major in like art or computer design, but take finance classes, take math classes. And I think maybe, and not necessarily in high school, but I know like at some high schools, they have like a stock club, or, so it's kind of learning all different, because I don't think, especially girls, get a full understanding of what comes from like finance and equity and all of investing and you know, a financial advisor versus a financial analyst, they sound the same, but they're totally different. And so I think like in certain areas of the country, or people that have exposure to a lot of things, like people know the difference. But if you're from a small town and God knows where, right? Sometimes you don't get that exposure. Even like suburbia, like if you're not taught this stuff, or you don't see the difference in things, you may not know. And so I think it's also a part of just kind of maybe educating just like what the job market looks like today, or what you can do as an entrepreneur. And so I think at the end of the day, I think that numbers are the most important thing, because whether it's coding or engineering or even political science, you're still going to need to, like, data is going to drive everything, and data is numbers, right? And so I think that is like, and I'm not the normal person too, to tell you the like, from how I grew up in, like, I went to a very small school, which was because the town was 1 square mile, and I had all opportunities. Like if I wanted to join the art club, I could do that. But if I wanted to be the captain of the basketball team, the girls basketball team, I could do that. So so I think it's just it's learning the numbers, and then just being inquisitive asking questions. And so I don't know if it's an education thing or just, I just think that understanding and knowing numbers is probably the most important thing.
Absolutely. Okay. And going and going forward, what are some things that we should be on the lookout for 2019 for, dress code?
So great question. We'll probably be announcing a new, I would say January timeframe. We'll probably launch on a retailer that if you follow, if you're watching or you watch this in a video, like follow us on Instagram at justcodetech.com and Twitter, and you'll get some of the updates there. What else? There's so many exciting things. We also do a lot of work with corporate customers. So there's some things in the pipeline with some very big organizations.
Nice.
That I think will have some good impact. So that's exciting. Holiday season, obviously, you think about kind of holiday sales. So we'll have some promotions over the next couple weeks. And
Yep. Awesome. Okay. And who's primary, like, people who can champion you? Who are people that are buying the stuff? Is it mostly girls? Is it women? I'd love for you to share that just for people to say, okay, well, is this for me?
Right. So our price point for a product is $40. So $40 gets you the bracelet and 30 to 50 minutes of a coding lesson, and then also access to our code environment ongoing. So you're able to go in and tinker with the code. And I think as we add more features, there'll be more things to add there, but we're still working on our technology. So there's that, but we have users from the ages of 8 and 9 with their parents to women in their 60s that are learning how to code. What we found is anyone under 11 really needs parent intervention and to help. And what we see is the moms and the girls, or the moms and the dads, or the moms and the grandparents are actually learning together. So that's really fun and cool to watch. At 11, 11-year-olds to like 18-year-olds are crushing it. Like they're using it, they're learning it, they're becoming more engaged with kind of, oh my gosh, this is different than I thought. And then where our sweet spot right now is, based on data, that are people that are buying, wearing, and using are women like 24 to 34. And then at 35, they're buying and gifting, either to like their daughter or to their friends. So you think of it, it's obviously a mechanism to learn a new skill, but also they're kind of fashionable. So we do have people that are just buying and wearing them because they support support women in tech, and they want to show that they're supportive and they like the look and feel of, because the quality is pretty high, like the quality is high and it's well made and made in the USA. So that's
woohoo! That's awesome. Yeah. Phenomenal. Okay, perfect. Well, I know you're busy, so I've shared your website. Go to dresscodetech.com. Guys, if you want to follow her, she said go on Instagram, dresscodetech. Now, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to collaborate with you, they want to champion you, any additional ways to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn's probably the best. Just reference this. And I'm pretty good if someone is like referencing something to get back to someone. I like interacting that way. Or you can @ me on Twitter and we'll figure something out.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll share that.
DM Dress Code Tech on Instagram, but there's other people that play into that too. So.
Yes, absolutely. All righty. So I will add your LinkedIn at the end of this so that people can get in touch with you. And just thank you. Thank you for sharing, your story, your wisdom, and why we need more women in tech and STEM, and how dress code is, kind of forging the frontier of that, and how people can get behind this, because it is a beautiful product and it's a phenomenal mission, and you guys are kicking ass. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, and it's been a pleasure. So
awesome. All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.